Gracenote is the world's leading entertainment and data technology company. The hottest entertainment products and brands around the globe rely on Gracenote's music, video, and sports content and technologies. I have worked on the sports side of the company for over 20 years. Since 2017, Gracenote has been part of Nielsen, which fuels the media industry with knowledge of what people watch and listen to. Nielsen knows everything about the people who are consuming sports content, while Gracenote Sports knows everything about the sports themselves via our comprehensive database of global sport, both now and historically. At Gracenote, we have developed analytical tools which make it easy for our clients to extract the insights they need. In the Olympic world, we work with around 25 national Olympic committees and other sports federations around the world to help them maximize their medal count at various international competitions, including the Olympic Games. We make it easier for our clients to monitor results, identify talent, benchmark athletes, and predict what may happen in the future. Our data provides business intelligence, which enables smarter decision-making. Gracenote Sports database contains millions of stories, and these are picked up by media all over the world. Here you can see a selection of the major media across numerous countries which have published Gracenote data stories just over the last few months. One of the most compelling stories for the media is forecasting Olympic medals. There are three main ways in which medals can be forecast: via economic factors, expert opinion, or using sports data. Gracenote's medal forecast is the only one to use extensive sports data. Forecasts using economic factors are static, and they need to include some measure of previous Olympic performance anyway to make up for the underperformance of some countries, such as India. They provide no information on who might win medals, as they are also purely based on countries. They work poorly for Winter Olympics, as performance in this type of event is also related to the presence of snow and ice in the sporting landscape of the country involved. An expert forecast is better than one using economic factors, but few have the expertise to forecast hundreds of events in numerous sports in advance, such as you would have at the Olympic Games. Even assuming an expert can do this, the forecast will only be available just before an event, and again would remain static. At Gracenote, we have a comprehensive database of global sports results, which means we can use these results to forecast an event like the Olympic Games. We can do this at any time, as our world-class data is updated in real time. This means that we always have a view of the likely medal table and medalists, making our forecast dynamic. We can assess the most likely medalists and therefore put names to the medals. This provides the opportunity to identify future stars before they achieve that stardom. You can see a very tiny bit of our data here from just over a week or so ago, and just in winter sports, but we have a lot more than this, of course. To make our Olympic forecasts, we developed our virtual medal table in 2010. We include all events with world-class fields since the previous Olympic Games. These can be World Championships, World Cups, Grand Prix, etc., all sorts of different events. These are then weighted for how important the competition was and how recently it took place. For example, a World Championship will be more important than a smaller Grand Prix event, and something which happened last week will be more important than an event from 1 year ago. We also implement a home advantage factor for the hosting nation and a number of other things. There are many applications for Olympic forecasts like the Gracenote virtual medal table, and we have found media, professional sports organizations, and anti-doping organizations to all be interested in our Olympic forecasts. Over time, we have improved our Olympic forecasts, adding a home advantage factor which boosts medals up for the country holding the Olympics. We take account of winning margins in each of the events which lead to the forecast, giving more credit to those winning by larger margins. In disciplines with lots of events, we use the best 10 for our final forecast. If a sport has personal bests, like athletics or swimming in the Summer Games, we include these as a separate annual virtual event or race. So we have one of those for each year between the Olympics. And we take account of more and more events than when we started in 2010, simply because we collect much more data now than we did in 2010. Sport is an unpredictable business, though. Our studies have shown that our performance of forecasting over 40% of gold medals and over 50% of medals correctly is the best that can be expected. Often athletes are very close to each other, and this is shown by the fact that 80% of medalists are ranked in the top 8 of their event by Gracenote's virtual medal table. The virtual medal table shows the most likely performance, and countries and athletes who do better or worse than this can be considered over and underperformers at that particular event. The objective of the virtual medal table after an Olympic Games or another event is to identify which countries and athletes overperformed or underperformed against the results posted prior to an Olympic Games. And this information is very useful to a National Olympic Committee in understanding its performance. As an example, we can look at the Pyeongchang Winter Games 3 years ago. The virtual medal table suggested that the top 5 would be Norway, winning 41 medals, which would have been a new Olympic record. Germany in second place with 39, the USA third with 29 medals, Canada fourth with 28 medals, and France fifth with 20. China was forecast to win 10 medals. After the Games, the actual medal table had Norway indeed at the top with 2 medals fewer than our forecast. So they finished on 39, which was still a new Olympic record for the number of medals won. Germany was second on 31. Canada was on 29 in third place, 1 more than our forecast, and had overtaken the United States, who finished on 23, which was 6 fewer than our forecast. France didn't finish in the top 5. They were replaced by the Netherlands, who finished 5th, winning 20 medals, which was 2 more than we had forecast before the Games. China won 9 medals, 1 fewer than the 10 which the data had suggested China should expect. Of the top 5, Norway, Canada, and the Netherlands got more or less the same number of medals as the results data had predicted. Germany and the United States underperformed their results, the results that they had had in the 4 years between Olympics, and China also won more or less the same number of medals as expected, but won fewer golds. Think of, for example, the shock figure skating defeat in the pairs competition, where China was heavily expected to win, but was beaten in that event. Gracenote's virtual medal table forecasts have become widely respected across the world since we published the first one at the end of 2010. Media are always interested in our latest forecasts as they provide great storytelling, which leads to increased engagement with viewers and readers. Professional sports organisations need to have an idea of where they stand in the world without having to wait for an Olympic Games to take place. And an approach like this allows them to track performance more effectively and benchmark their athletes against their competition, as well as helping them to understand how the performances actually went and whether they over or underperformed and why. Increasingly, anti-doping organisations also have a use for the virtual medal table and similar approaches, as it helps to identify odd performances, but also helps focus testing on the likely top performance before an Olympic Games. Think again about the 80% of medalists come from our top 8 ranked athletes overall. Last month, we released our first virtual medal table for the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing. This can be found at the address shown on this slide, and I assume that this presentation will be shared with you. This virtual medal table will also be updated regularly. So here is our first forecast for next year's Beijing Games. The initial virtual medal table forecast, which we released in February, implies that Norway will again break the record for most medals at the Winter Olympics. This Norway team is forecast to win 41 medals, of which 25 will be gold. And both of those things will be new records for a Winter Games. Competitors for Russia are also expected to do well, with those allowed to take part currently forecast to win 34 medals, more than any Soviet or Russian team managed. But we have to wait for confirmation of who will take part before we know for sure what sort of level that these athletes will achieve. China is currently forecast to win 8 medals, including 2 gold medals. There will need to be some improvement in this to be the best team in Asia, ahead of Japan and South Korea. China's performance therefore looks like being similar to 2018. And we have China at the moment finishing in 14th place in the final medal table. Figure skating, freestyle skiing, and short track are the country's best winter sports historically, and here is a game where medals are most likely to be won. However, we do at the moment have a little bit of a problem with short track in that the Chinese and other athletes are not taking part, have not taken part in the recent World Championships. And therefore we have data for those countries lacking at present. That event has only just finished, so it's not included in this particular iteration of the virtual medal table. China has won medals in 6 Winter Olympic sports, and the contenders for next year are also expected to come from those 6 sports. So that's the 3 that are mentioned here, plus of course speed skating, curling, and snowboarding. In summary, the great data from Olympic sports between the Olympics collected by Gracenote produces a robust and accurate forecast of the medal table at the next Olympic Games. This can identify over 50% of the medalists in advance, with 80% of eventual medal winners ranked in the top 8 that we produced just before the Olympic Games. Over and underperformers can be assessed after the Olympics, which helps national Olympic committees understand their performances better. Over the last decade or so, our Olympic forecasts have become widely respected across the world, by both media and within professional sports. These forecasts have applications in media, professional sports organizations, and anti-doping. There's the address again. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Oh, there's plenty of questions, Simon. We're having to calm down a Finnish lady next to me who saw 18th for her position. We've got a straitjacket for you, Rika.
I'm doing my best.
She's okay. She's you know, it's not about life or death. It's far more important than that. Right. The first question I have is Tracy from Beijing. How confident are you in the accuracy of this medal assessment when at the moment the Chinese athletes are unable to travel overseas and compete? So how do you take that into account?
That's a very difficult thing to take into account. We're currently trying to discuss what we might do with this, but when this is entirely based on results. That's what we base it. That's what we base it on. So it's not something that's very easy to do. We can, for example, weight the recent World Championships in, for example, short track in a different way. And then that also penalises the people who did take part. I think this particular version, which was produced last month before that happened, is a reasonably accurate thing. It's not just taking account, of course, of results from now, but also from the last 3 years. So there's lots of results in there which happened before COVID came around.
Excellent. Will it change? Will you do an update? And when do you do updates with this assessment?
Yes, it will change. We usually do updates every month. With the Winter Games, it's slightly different because you obviously have the quiet period in the summer. So we'll do another one before the end of this winter season, I think, or at the end of this winter season, but then we'll be kicking into this again in September time and then doing it every month for sure. The final one that we do is just before the Olympic Games take place. So usually we release something 2 or 3 days before the Olympic Games take place, and that is obviously got the most information and is what we regard as the most accurate.
Yeah, it's a fascinating survey. It's a superb benchmark. I predict you're going to have a rush of events and a rush of athletes. From what we've heard from Chinese sources, they will be athletes needing to qualify who don't have quite enough points, so FIS ranking points, for example. So we're going to have a lot of activity at the back end of this year, and we'll see people's form, and we'll see how they're doing. We have Oli Absolo from the International Testing Agency speaking at the end of this, and I think that application of your data for education purposes and observation of athlete purposes is something that many of us wouldn't have thought of. So what a superb efficient usage of all the data that you guys have processed and gathered. That's a fantastic service. Simon, I want to thank you very much for your presentation, your information, and we look forward to all of us keep track of this virtual medal table. I'm sure we can translate it into Chinese or whichever languages you need on the mainland, but I'm sure you have offices there already. Great. Super. Thank you very much, Simon.